Hey there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good day, wherever you are. This is the ORIN Oracles Live, and I'm so jazzed. Today, I've got three awesome ladies joining me, and that is Roslynn Hansen, Linda Maris, and Nancy Fox. Now, what these ladies all have in common is they all are expert gardeners, organic gardeners, and they all use urine. We're going to learn some stuff today, folks. So I'm going to take a few minutes to do some intro and some promo. And so I welcome people. I see we're being joined. We're being joined in Europe and Florida, and hi Kathleen and Marcella and Magdalena. They've joined us so far. So I want to just catch up. This has been a really amazing week. Yeah, I had the show last Tuesday with allegedly Dave, and that went really well. It's had like 4,500 views or something, which is just like crazy cool. And I did a special with Eric Casano, which also was awesome. I did a Friday night show with Lula Live, and that went really well. And you can find these on my pages. All these programs are listed in my pages. I did a Saturday morning, which I really enjoy Saturday mornings. It's like a cartoon show. It's Casey Caban live Q&A, and I welcome people to come in and ask questions and have conversations. And so that's Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. And then last night, I had the amazing and awesome privilege to be on a radio program that broadcasts out of Ireland, with two amazing guys, Graham Hart and Bryzer Smith, Brian, and we had a delightful time. And you can find that link also on my pages and on the High Vibe Tribe. It shows a coffee cup, and you just click on the link, and you'll find that show. And today, I've made some new choices. The original show, ORIN Oracles Live, I'm going to turn that into something unique. And I went out and did some filming today for that broadcast, and I'll post that up in a couple days. I'm working on it. It'll be a lot of fun. And so the last one I did was another wash day miracle. And that was fun, washing my clothes and with pee at the Maytag. And so things are just rolling along. It's a lot of fun right now. The tribe is growing. People are coming in on Facebook and subscribing. I hit over 100,000 views on the YouTube. So, I'm just excited. And this isn't to stroke my ego by any stretch. This is just an indication of how this movement is growing. And people are flocking. They are. And I welcome people to really step up their game and be open and honest about how urine therapy really is such an amazing, amazing remedy for people to change their lives and turn them totally around. So now I want to let you know that the Water Life Symposium is in September 21st, 2nd, and 3rd. It's going to be at the Westgate Resort. It is an amazing event, and we met last year. This is how I originally met Linda. Now, I had known Roslynn months before. We became Facebook friends way before the symposium, but I picked her up at the airport, so we got to meet and greet and hug and all that. And Nancy found me on my YouTube channel, and she reached out to me while I was on my road journey, and that's how we connected. And so I have all three of them here on the line, and they're waiting patiently, and it's going to be fun, folks. And also, just to do one more step in the promo, the ORIN Oracles, book 1 of the 104 poems that I described, which people seem to resonate to, that is now at the publisher. And I am receiving, with love and gratitude, any donations that people want to contribute. A $25 donation to my paypal.me/Weedu account will secure you a signed and numbered copy, and you will be included in the acknowledgments. You'll be a part of the book. So with all that being said, I want to welcome our esteemed panel, our beautiful ladies. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Say hello. Come on, speak
Hello,
up.
everybody. Here we are.
Okay, because I want to make sure our audience is hearing you. Can people hear their voices okay? Because they're on a conference call on my phone and I'm doing this on the computer. So can anybody let me know if they can hear everybody fine?
Thumbs up. Thumbs up.
Yeah, give some thumbs up. Let us know if you can hear them. And so anyway, Roslynn, number one, when she came to the symposium, she brought some unique garden products. She brought this black radish, which I had never heard of in my life, but this thing was the size of a melon. It was huge. It was beautiful, and it was so tasty. And she brought these tomatoes that were just gigantic, and they were so sweet and so big, and they weren't even her biggest. So let's start with you, Roslynn, because yeah, Roslyn's going to be one of the featured speakers at the symposium this coming September. And so give us a little background on how all of this developed for you first, Roslynn.
It's a long story, but I'll keep it short. I was at a reservation in Montana when I was about 10, and a lady had served a salad with a pink tomato on it. That pink tomato, I didn't want to eat it because I thought it was too pretty to eat. Because when I was growing up, most of us, we all know that we see red tomatoes, but this one was a true pink tomato. So she took me in the backyard behind the restaurant that I could save this tomato, but I should eat the one that was put on my salad. And she showed me how to save the seeds from that tomato. So that begins my love affair of collecting and saving exotic seeds. In a nutshell.
So, when did you first realize that you were going to be incorporating urine into your process? How long ago was that?
That began, well, because I grew up on my grandparents, they had a farm, a hobby farm, and my grandpa, of course, would save the manure from animals. Manure of the cows, the sheep, he had pigs. So that went into the compost. So, and same with the urine. So it needed to rest for a time for it not to burn the vegetables. And of course, long ago, already know fertilizers and pesticides, that was the layer that was spread on the fields long ago. Manure.
Yeah, the dung, the cow dung and whatever, the manures.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, in understanding, the simple gardening, I had rabbits when I was growing up, so I think you lost me.
I didn't lose you. You're here. Just speak
right.
up. Don't be hanging back from the microphone. Speak as loud as you can.
All right. Well, it's right here in front of me.
Good.
So I had noticed, because I had rabbits when I was growing up, that the rabbit urine and manure would, burn plants. So it's, it's a trial and error that, fresh manure and fresh urine, animal urine, was not producing what I was told by my grandparents. And of course then learning that, well, it needs to rest, the urine or the manure. So in the application of bringing urine into the garden, that kind of came natural, knowing that some urine that was left in jars that I forgot about, I just automatically just poured it on the compost. And as slowly as I started having the boys potty trained, it was easy to run around with a jar and collect their urine. And of course, how to disguise that conversation was, well, it's for the compost. And there was YouTube people, sending, not sending, but, displaying a conversation how they use their urine in composting. So, that was easy to educate my children because they could watch it, somebody else doing it besides their mother. And, just slowly each year, just collecting more. Some people usually during January till March, I'll save all the banana peels, and I always put a banana peel or two in each tomato and pepper because they like to feed off the extra potassium that's in the banana peel.
How curious. So you put those in the bottom of the plant before you put the soil? Is that what I understand?
Correct.
Okay. That's interesting. That makes a lot of sense.
And it's also because the peel itself, because they're frozen, but they also attract a lot of extra water, hold water at the roots as well.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Naturally decomposing because it's in the dirt.
Now, would you use a fresh banana peel, one that hadn't already been in the compost, you mean?
Sure. Well, right now I have a freezer full of banana peels that I save, that I'll be, just taking the bags out, and I'll just throw a hand, 3 or 4 peels of bananas in each mound of that I'll be putting a tomato or a pepper on.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Really fascinating.
Free fertilizer. Just save your banana peels.
Yeah. Piss on it. Free fertilizer. So, Nancy, you there? Hey.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us your story, please? Introduce yourself and tell us some of your knowledge.
Well, I purchased a water distiller, and the neighbors, came over to see the garden, and they saw the new water distiller and, told me that it wasn't good. At the same time, I had an inguinal hernia and that, popped up. And so I had, a lot of time. And I started looking at information about water distillers. And I found out that about urine from Andrew Norton Weber. And I was afraid to use the mower on the lawn because here we have ground hornets, wasps, mud daubers, and I found out that I was allergic to those things. But Andrew Norton Weber said that if I immediately drank some of my own urine, that the antidote would be in there. So I was real interested. And I already was eating clean, being vegetarian and growing my own food. So I, like you, I just jumped right in and started drinking my urine and looping it and making past poultices to put on the hernia. And then I found out I started using it as, as fertilizer, and I found out about, diluting it, which I'm still not quite sure on exactly, how to judge that. But I felt it's very, very successful. And when the plants, if they got a little sick or something and their leaves are kind of dropping a little bit, that by giving them some urine fertilizer, that they would pop up. And so every year after that, I made sure that I was giving them more urine fertilizer. And I also had a problem in the garden with mold. There were little moles in the ground, and I know about killing things. I'm really sorry. But I put bubble gum in the holes so that they'd eat that and not be such a problem in the garden.
How curious. How did you discover that? I had mole problems in the property I managed in Arizona. They were just relentless. So why bubble gum? How did you come across that?
More than likely online, just asking Google a lot of questions. But now I'm using the urine fertilizer. Mold, they don't like it. It's in the soil. It's not going away.
Wow.
And I found out, and so I don't have as large a mold problem. And then I did have a problem with rabbits getting in. So I did apply more the flanks of the garden more, and then I never had another problem.
How curious.
So
the rodents and rabbits or whatever just don't they don't care for the urine. Is that right?
That is correct.
Wow.
I have 4 feet of 4-foot high chicken wire going around a diamond pattern bamboo fence. The bamboo fence was 14, 16 feet high as to keep the deer out. And so the garden worked beautifully last year. That's no problems at all.
Now, how long, tell everybody how long you have been doing urine therapy yourself and realizing these techniques for your garden.
I think it's going to be 6 years coming up this June.
Oh, awesome.
And and so the wonderful thing is from listening to you and listening to other people that you've talked to and wanting to find out how to honor ourselves, and then to find out that I had a reason to really honor myself among other thoughts occasionally. But anyway, that I could have my own urine because I've been saving it, for years. And so I have a big stash of 5-year-old urine, and I found that it's worked so beautifully in so many different ways, just with maybe even a Q-tip. And I found out it doesn't take like a mass of urine. Urine isn't something that we just throw down the toilet, flush it, and it's gone. It's really, it's definitely gold. It's life. It's life. And so I really appreciate that honoring, and I'm grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, that's such good information. That's awesome. Linda, are you done unpacking? Are you there?
I am here.
Oh, great. Yeah. So we're going to have Linda Maris, who I had the privilege of meeting at the symposium last September, and she is really awesome. I love all 3 of you ladies. You're so dear. I love you all so much.
Oh, we love you too, Tracy.
Thank you. So why don't you give us some of your background, Linda, and how you've been applying these techniques, and how long have you been doing it, those kind of things?
Well, so I found out about urine therapy in the beginning of 2016. I was helping a client with stage 4 melanoma, and he called me and said, I've got some information. How open-minded are you? And so I said, I'm pretty open-minded. And so he said that he'd met this couple that his parents had known for many years. He called them aunt and uncle because they'd been in the family. They weren't related, but they'd been in the family for many, many years. And they came up from New Mexico up here to Oregon to meet up with him and tell them, tell him their story, how they've been practicing urine therapy for 35 years. And they're in their late 70s. And So he started, he started applying urine packs to his melanoma on his thigh and his calf, and drinking the first morning, washing his body, he did urine rubs with it. And it took quite a while for the melanoma to go away. I shared with him about the fruitarian diet because cancer needs methionine, which is an amino acid, which is found mainly in chicken and fish, the highest levels, and then a lot of other processed foods. All processed foods are very high in methionine, but cancer needs methionine to grow. So if you restrict the methionine intake, which is very low levels in fruit, you starve the cancer. So he started on a fruitarian diet, doing a lot of fruit smoothies and dry fasting, which is no food or water. And it was about 9 months he turned the corner, and the tumor started abating. He was using black salve also, by the way, to pull out the tumors from his leg and his calf. But yeah, within 9 months he turned the corner, and they just kind of all went away.
Wow.
So he told me in January, and I was living in Texas at the time when we consulted together. And I came back to Oregon in the summer, and I was here for 6 weeks, and I stayed with him, and that's when I started doing my own urine, just drinking my own urine, putting on my face and my neck and my arms and my legs. And I didn't do full body rubs for an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, which is what I'm doing now, but I just didn't have the privacy to do that because I was staying there at their house. So it made me a believer, and I was just really, really amazed at the amount of healing, the scarring away. I mean, he had 15 tumors pop up on his right upper thigh from where he kept his cell phone in his right upper pocket. And, they all just, they're still there. I just saw him. I just went up to Portland, and I went over to Vancouver, because when you get to Vancouver now, and another Vancouver to see them. And the scarring is still there, but it's very minuscule. So the urine complexes are taking care of the scarring, too. So, yep. So being a retired cardiac RN, I just delved into all the research, watched all of Andy Norton-Weber's videos, watched, allegedly Dave's videos, got his book, and I'm sold. So
when did you start applying it as a nutrient for gardening?
Well, last year we have marijuana is legal in Oregon, and so we have a marijuana crop in Oregon, and I kind of experimented just on one plant, and the amount of flowers that we got on this one plant was so much more than what we did on any other plant. So it was pretty amazing to see, and that's the one thing that I've done so far this year on the garden. The garden's going to be basically grown with urine as a nutrient.
Linda, I read, that's what kind of confused me. It's not really confused me, but woke me up. I read about on cannabis plants to have 50 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
Did you say, Nancy, did you just say a 50 to 1? Is that a ratio?
Yes, 50 to 1 ratio.
Okay.
50%. It's just a little bit, because I was kind of thinking about 10. When I fill up whatever I'm filling up, I just put it at the bottom like an inch or so. I kind of think 10 to 1, 20 to 1, those kind of numbers, just a little bit. And so, so that would really, 50 to 1 is like a lot, right?
Oh yeah, you could spread that around and make that last a long time.
Now, Roslynn, you have like a big barrel, like a big cistern, is that right?
Yes, I have two 1,500 cisterns in the backyard that collect the rain that come off the roof. So I usually typically will put a gallon of aged urine, over a year urine, aged urine, in that 1,500 gallon container.
Just a gallon.
Water, vigorously, everything. As well in the fall, I usually will put aged urine on the compost that I know I'm going to spread throughout the gardens in the spring.
Right. That aged urine, I've been reading about the ammonia, and that's what gives it that, I don't know, that stem cell bigger life and such. And I have a small bottle of aged urine in the bathroom that I put for my eyelids. Started getting like something strange, and I read about putting a little bit of the aged urine. I put it on a Q-tip, and then I have to blow kind of like the ammonia off of the, and barely touch my eyelid with it. But I've been putting it in my ears and my eyes. But I have that bottle in a sealed mason jar. The rest of the time, it's powerful.
I would suggest to let it breathe.
Oh, you think so? I put it outside and let it breathe. Maybe that would help it breathe out. Right.
Well, you don't have to put it outside, but just maybe covering it with a cloth or a coffee filter will help air off the excess ammonia that you might be feeling or smelling when you open up the jar.
But you also, Roslynn, I've heard you talk about photosynthesis with aging urine, putting it out in the sun, and that helps it a lot. Is that correct?
What I've experienced, yes, during those dog days of summer where the warm evenings are really, very uncomfortable, humid-wise, as well as the temperature doesn't fluctuate very low, but, still hangs up in the, I'd say, the high 70s to the mid 80s, which can be uncomfortable depending on where you live at. Here in Minnesota, when it's 80 degrees, humidity at 90, you're just sweating all night long. And those are really good evenings or during the day till I just put the picnic table out and put all the urine on the picnic table and watch it do its thing. But they rapidly turn in their aging really very, very rapidly. I can watch it change from an inch, 2 inch as it's doing its color change as it's aging.
What do you mean by inches? What does that look like? I'm trying to picture that.
What comes to mind is a rainbow. You would see the hues of the changing colors in the urine.
Oh.
Usually, as you've watched your take on a darker hue.
Yes.
And then it slowly will hue, an inch at a time.
From the bottom up or the top down?
Top down.
Oh, okay. How curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, now my oldest urine right now is 11 months old, and it's this beautiful dark amber, and it's delicious. And I use that in a spray bottle and do my body rubs with that. And I right now have, I think, 28 gallons now in their aging process, and I'm excited about that. I'm gonna emulate you, and come spring, summer, I'm gonna score a free bathtub, and I'm going to fill that up and have my own little spa here in ORIN town. With let it heat up. Put a little like a bubble wrap kind of top on it so that it'll keep the debris out, but also generate it as a heater. Kind of photosynthesize it. I'm looking forward to that. You inspired me on that idea.
Well, it's always been pondered in my mind, like, it would be so cool to submerge my whole body in all at once. Rubbing's wonderful, don't get me wrong, but, my thought was a Japanese tub, a copper one would be ideal. And, well, like, well, no better than the moment I do have a tub and nobody's using it, I'll put all my copper in there with my aged urine.
So you still have that, it's been a couple weeks now, I think. So you still have that same tub full?
Same tub, same urine.
Yeah. Now, how many weeks has that been now? It's got to be 3 weeks or something, eh?
Well, Otto left. What day did he leave? He left January. He left on the 9th of January, so it was like the 7th of January is when I started filling the tub up.
Awesome. So awesome. I'm so jazzed about it.
Slowly I've been putting in as fresh, so it's getting more. What I'm planning to do, I won't let this urine run out and drain out. I will probably collect it and put it on the garden or put it in the barrels in the backyard this spring.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Waste not, what not. Yeah.
I have to get a pump.
It's an interesting nice urine container, should I say, that for saving, what the person's not drinking it or they're not, looping it all night. And that was to put get like a gallon jug and then to put a funnel, in the opening and put a ping pong ball. So this way then we can put, our urine into the funnel and the ping pong ball will rise up, and then when the urine goes down, it goes down and it seals it.
How curious. Sure. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I haven't tried it yet. I'm going to go get a ping pong ball though and try it because I think it would. I think it. It let it air a little bit.
Yeah. I can see that happening.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So what are you planting this year, Roslynn?
Well, this fall, I'm going to do a couple of squash. I always like to do a squash or a pumpkin, type squash. Doing tomatoes, of course, and of course the radishes and carrots, because I broadcast a lot of that seed will be coming up naturally. Peppers will be probably another protocol. We have a variety of peppers that we bring back from Hungary, the seeds, and the famous paprika pepper that people will use paprika to cook with. That pepper is a really lovely pepper to eat as well, fresh.
Wow, and why Hungary? I mean, there's a specific variety that comes that you don't find elsewhere?
Yeah, well, the choice here, is just the bell pepper, but the Hungarian pepper, the paprika pepper that they use famously for making paprika, is a flat, like bell pepper, but the or the walls of the pepper are incredibly thick, but dry. It's very interesting. Where the bell pepper, each bite into it, it has the thick wells, but they're wet, or it's moist, which is nice. But on a drying level, you want a pepper that has the flavor, but without all the it would take much longer to dehydrate them.
Right. And how do you dehydrate them? Do you use a dehydrator or something?
I haven't gotten to dehydrate them because I just eat them raw.
Oh, that's a good one.
I froze the peppers at the end of the season, that I had some left. I just took them off whole. I was really, at the end of the season, I was tired of gardening, and I just put them in the freezer whole until it froze, and then I put them, in a plastic bag so I could really get to them. And then when I made kimchi, I took one out, I cleaned out the seeds, I cut it up, I put it in the last batch of kimchi, so I know it worked. Didn't bother it at all, and it was delicious. I just froze them whole. Oh, yeah, it never turned. I mean, in the kimchi, I never found one that was mushy or anything.
That's so cool.
So,
That's very cool. Now, what are you plant, Nancy?
well, I like potatoes. So I've got the garden down by the creek, and it's about a quarter of a mile from my other garden. That's how it worked out. And so I can water that from the creek. I have a Honda trash pump, and I put the end into the creek, and then the motor starts up really well, and I have a irrigation that Hans made many years ago, irrigation system there, so I can water that huge garden down there rapidly. So I like to put plants down there that I don't have to really have a big insect problem with. And so that's where I grow like a lot of squash. Sometimes the Japanese beetles are pretty bad on the bean plants, but garlic. Got garlic down there. But basically, I'm trying to grow a whole bunch of potatoes. That's my big crop this year. And then up at the other garden that's higher, and it does get more sun. Then I grew last year the big watermelon by accident, and I'm a vertical grower. In fact, even where the potatoes, where I'd be putting those, that's fenced part of it to grow vertically, but I can put more more squash around there. But anyway, I grow vertical because I'm not in a perfect sunny location. And I grow peas. I like the shell peas, and of course, the broccoli raw, the real tender broccolis, and for sure, I really learned the value of planting the cabbage really early in the garden, because that is the best kind of cabbage to cut and make sauerkraut with, and the probiotic, it's phenomenal.
I'm curious. Now, you're growing the potatoes vertically as well? They're not in the ground?
No.
Wow,
no,
I've never heard of that. I've never
ground.
heard of that. That's amazing.
No, but they're in the ground. I'm just saying that I haven't tend to grow vertical crops, but right now I'm just going to be growing potatoes this year down there.
But the potatoes grow in the ground, right?
They grow in the ground.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to clarify that, because I'd never heard of such a thing as growing out of the ground.
I ordered organic potatoes from, I can't even remember the name of it right now, a garden company in North Carolina. I ordered 50 pounds of potatoes. So that's how serious I'm going to be with them, in the ground.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I want to welcome our viewers, and hello, Don, and Doc is here, and Nicholas came in, and he said, sounds like my Orimus for plants, you only need a teaspoon to a gallon of water. That's what he says. And so I think that people are understanding that it really doesn't require a lot to be effective.
No. Just a little goes a long way.
Now, Linda, let's get back to Linda now. What do you grow? I know you do a lot of preserving. You do a whole food production. Why don't you tell us about that?
Well, I don't really preserve food. I dehydrate food. I just got done about a month ago putting up probably around 20 pounds of persimmons, and I just slice them and dehydrate them, and then I make dehydrated persimmon leathers. I make grapefruit leathers, and any other fruit that I can find on sale, and tomatoes. I'll slice the tomatoes real thin and dehydrate them, and they're like potato chips.
Yeah, how curious.
And you dehydrate them. Yeah, they're really good. And you dehydrate them no more than at 115 degrees, because you don't want to cook the fruit. You want all the enzymes to still stay active. So you dehydrate them on a real low temperature.
Now you're there in Southern Oregon, and you're growing persimmons on your property. Is that right?
No. I found a gentleman outside of another town that's in. He had 5 persimmon trees, and he was selling them. He's selling them for 3 for $5. And so I went there twice, and then the last 2 times I went, he said, just take as many as you want. So I just loaded up.
So I mean, he's growing the persimmons though in Southern Oregon, right?
Yes, he's growing them in Southern Oregon. Right, and then in October, up to the end of September and October, I have a guy that I go pick Concord grapes. In fact, Daniel came with me, and he was here after the symposium. Tim and Rana and Shane and Weedu Jesus came up and stayed for a few days, and they went and picked grapes at Jim's place, and we got a whole bunch of Concord grapes, and they were just delicious. But I'll make fruit butters with those too, and make grape juice.
Now, you were telling me on our last conversation that you've got some enterprising ideas that you want to bring to like farmers markets and even in consideration of like a food truck or something. Did I hear all that correctly when you talked? Why don't you tell us about that?
Yes, you did. So here in Southern Oregon, there's no raw food, particularly just raw food restaurants. And so my youngest son and I had the idea of buying a food truck and starting a raw food restaurant. Out of a food truck going to festivals. There's a lot of, residential festivals and music festivals here in the spring and summer and fall in Southern Oregon. And so we've been looking into that. I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but I put in an application for the growers market on Saturday, and they, interview and try your treats and stuff in March. So we'll see how that goes. But I make all kinds of different dehydrated seeded crackers with pulp, vegetable pulp and fruit pulp. I have been some pumpkin crackers, which I'll be sending you and Daniel some.
Yeah, you told us that. That's so sweet.
Yeah. And so, and then I make, raw spinach dip and different kinds of, dips. Dip the crackers in, smell the crackers. And anyway, so that's what I'm probably going to be doing.
So I want to make note of something because I think it's important for people to realize that Linda lives in Southern Oregon, Nancy lives in Virginia, and Roslynn lives in Minnesota. So there are 3 completely separate realities as far as climate and growing. And by listening to all of you, the results seem to be working successfully no matter what in all of your applications.
Correct. Yes, I agree.
And it's a lot of it's just timing, understanding when to plant, what to plant, and all of those things. I would imagine I've never been a gardener. I was a chef. I handled the finished products. So yeah, I've always admired people that had green thumbs, but it sounds like you guys got yellow thumbs.
Yellow, right? Green and yellow.
Yeah. So I want to just take a moment and see if anybody in our listening audience has any kind of questions for you. If you do, just pop them up. I'm reading the feed, so if anybody has any questions, otherwise we'll just continue. And so, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. When you mentioned the cooked food, this is the first year that in my gardening last year that I ever made, and it was online. It was called golden zucchini soup. It had a little bit of ginger in it also, but I don't have the recipe in front of me. I can reach it in a moment. So, and I made this big pots of zucchini soup because zucchinis they get crazy, and I froze it, and I loved it because I froze it flat. in those Ziplocs, and I open it up, and then I can make a meal immediately. I can just heat that up, put it on top of rice, or I can put beans into it, or I can put some of my canned green beans. I cook food a lot more, Linda, but I found it to be the most wonderful fast food in the world. My own soup, right there.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
It is delicious.
Well, and I know all three of you have your own unique applications. I know Roz has a family. Tell us about some of your feeding rituals that you do for your children and your family, Roz.
Well, we're getting to the less is best routine.
Less is more.
I can share with you my son Bo. He's 14. He's done his own personal experiment with it's on his third week, but three weeks ago he chose to stop eating the school lunch. And within the first 10 days, he noticed his sleep pattern had improved. That is, he wasn't awake at 11:30, 12:30, and sometimes 1:30 in the morning. And so he's on his third week this week of choosing not to eat the school lunch, which I've encouraged him not to, but social conditioning.
Yeah.
So he's, very much on board with, he doesn't need to eat lunch. It's kind of not necessary, especially with his observation of, because he's falling asleep at 10 o'clock. He's like, he's tuckered out, he's exhausted, and like, what's in the food that they're serving at school?
Yeah.
Makes you wonder. So, I'll just take his personal testimonial and remind him often of it.
Yeah.
But right now, the citrus fruit are big. We're doing a lot of, grapefruit and oranges, lemonade, limeade, and pineapples coming in season. So there's always with pineapple sitting on the counter. And give or take, there's a couple of cookies as well.
Okay, I do have a question for you, Roz. Doc Precise, he says, can you enlighten us about the effects of the Wi-Fi on food and us?
Well, I think the Wi-Fi behaves kind of like a microwave.
Yes.
And that microwave of radiation is a wavelength that, we can't feel, but we probably can observe the side effect of an overload or, within our body that, you feel off or you're perplexed, I think, or feeling a duality within your present moment. You're not, think.
Well, I've been I've brought this up a couple of times. I've talked to him recently on a couple of different broadcasts that I was talking about it last night on the radio, and I do have a perspective of this, and it's something that people need to be cognizant of and pay attention to, because these are technologies that have been imposed upon us. Now, the official story is we want faster Wi-Fi and, speed up our videos and download our Netflix and whatever. But when you actually do the actual observational study and the research on these elements, there is a cooperation. The chemtrails are definitely a part of it. The electromagnetic frequencies, the microwaves are a part of it. The EMFs and the HARP, they're all a part of it. They all work in concert with each other. Now, this also goes into the other industries. The food industries the water industries, the pharmaceutical industries. All of these industries are in a cooperation by inducing literally poisons into our system. Now, one of the real big ones is to calcify our bodies. So highly acidic diets, fluoride in the water, all of these things are contributing to calcification and ossification of our physiological makeup. Now, these are conductors. They know this. Now, what happens as a result of the microwave, the electromagnetic frequencies, is that our bodies, because we are magnetic, we're magnetic energy, as they are more calcified, they can actually, quite frankly, manipulate us, particularly with calcified pineal glands, because that's our receptor. That's our main receptor to the universal mind. And that's why it's done with such intent to convince people that fluoride is healthy. It's good for you. Dentists recommend it. Why wouldn't I want to do it? So, this is, it's a deep subject, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I just wanted to touch on that. It's something I've mentioned a couple of times because I think it's important that people just pay attention, be aware, because these towers are everywhere. I mean, I live out in the middle of Missouri, and you can't drive a mile down the road without seeing them one after another, after another, after another. They're everywhere. And they're real obvious here in Missouri because it's just open, real open. But when you go into the cities, they're much more clever about it. They hang them everywhere on buildings. I saw an image not long ago of it's a health food store and a pediatric clinic, and it's a little strip mall. And it's got all these towers on top of the building, it's like, wow, that's just like nuts, You go in to get your health food and, they got the microwave radiation energy just pumping on the roof. It's just pretty astonishing. So, I don't want to go into that a whole lot right now because that's not our conversation, but I think it's just something that people need to pay attention to. That's all, just be aware. And pee helps you. I call it my pee coat protection because I don't ever concern myself with these elements anymore, the chemtrails, the EMFs, and I don't. My body is perfectly healthy. I'm never sick. I'm not in pain, and I don't wear a tin foil hat either. So, okay, let's get back to gardening. Spring is coming.
Well, with Roslynn mentioning her son's lunch, the school lunches had me thinking about biosolids, because all of the human fertilizer, I call it that, now goes into a septic system, and then they use 50% of that spray on the farmland.
Yes.
And 50, and so. But that has all the fats, the pharmaceuticals, the detergents, perfumes, bleach, paintable things, anything anybody throws in the sink. And so that's why growing our own food and being our own fertilizer and having a value of being sustainable in ourselves through the water of life, it's a healing experience just using the urine that we've been given.
Yes. It is. I mean, it's miraculous. There's no better term to realize what we're dealing with our urine. It's a miracle. It's given to us,
Right. And there's so much of it.
Yeah, and speaking, I'm a pee factory myself. I pump that stuff, man. And I don't drink a lot of water. I don't drink any water. I just drink my pee and my coffee and whatever. But I can pump a gallon a day out of my body. It's just a miracle, man. It's amazing. Now speaking, I was just going to comment again on like the school lunches. I remember, a couple of years ago that they classified pizza as a vegetable group because it had marinara and tomato sauce on it. I mean, this is really rigged. It's a rigged deal, man. What they call food anymore is pretty questionable, really questionable. So, who else? What else you got in there, girls? Somebody tell us some more knowledge about anything.
Well, I like to usually take, the diluted urine. I'll soak my peas and some beans in the urine, the diluted urine, before I put them in the ground. And if they're, which I usually get 100% of my plants to come up or sprout, because I can see that a seed, if it's not going to be viable to sprout, I can pick that out because it won't do the proper hydration.
Now, these are just the seeds you're talking about?
Yep, just the seeds.
Uh-huh. And how long do you do that? How long do you let them soak?
Just 24 hours with peas and beans. Like 12 hours with a cucumber or vine like the tomato seed. That also about maybe 12 hours. And the seed will puff up properly, and it will stimulate it. The water is stimulating it to hydrate, but it's really the sunlight that allows a seed to germinate, as well as the temperature. But it's really not the earth. I mean, the earth has a temperature, but usually germination is stimulated by light.
So let me just make a clarity of this. So you lay the seeds like on a cloth or something, and then cover them, and then just you're not like putting them in like a bath or anything. You're just like, hydrating them. Is that what you're doing?
I'm rehydrating the seed, and I'll put it in like a small custard, the seed that I want. If I want 12 pepper plants, and I'll put down 12 pepper plants in a small custard bowl with, a teaspoon of diluted urine, and I'll watch the seed do what it naturally would do in the ground that we don't see, and that is that it will hydrate and puff up, just as if you see a fresh seed out of a pepper plant. Right,
like a sprout.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it hasn't sprouted yet. It's just stimulating it, that this covering that is its shell is soft enough for the sprout to break through.
That makes such perfect sense.
Like you're soaking nuts, or as you soak your seeds to create and grow sprouts.
Yeah, that just makes perfect sense.
So usually instead of, you put a row of peas down and every other seed doesn't germinate, it's not that it was just a viable seed that didn't receive enough moisture to do its germinating action. So I bypassed that, wondering what happened to half my seed that I put down. I get 100% most viable seed growth because I reconstituted, hydrated the seed to a level that I felt comfortable that the ground is at temperature, and then there's proper light as well.
That just makes so much sense. That's valuable information right there. That's really... And what about you, Nancy? Do you do any pre-preparation with your seeds, or how do you proceed?
Well, I'm going to thank you for the hint of putting a little bit of urine in the water, but it depends upon the seeds. But I put my peas, I put them in like a half a quart jar, with a sprouting lid on it. I could drain the water off of them, and I let them soak, and sometimes some of the seeds after that I put onto a piece of paper towel, and then I fold it where it's not wet, but it's kind of dampish, and it just keeps them damp, and I let some things sprout that way, and then I plant them into my potting soil that I'm using. And as we were talking earlier about, grow lights, because they need the light.
Well, some of my seeds I've had for, 20 plus years, so some of I want to know that it's going to sprout properly, so that's why I started experimenting with hydrating the seed to know that it's still viable, and it'll do its proper puffing up and, become its proper size when it was fresh. That tells me that it's a viable seed. It'll grow, and I'll put it in the ground and, watch it grow.
This is also this is so educational. I thank you all for this. Man, I know the listeners are going to just eat this up. This is good stuff.
Well, you know, the thing that was really, really interesting as far as growing lettuce is at the Wild Gardeners Club, they brought a seed stock from a chicory. Grows along, you know, the side of the road here in Virginia. Just the blue flowers and such. And so I didn't know it was chicory. I thought it was lettuce. So anyway, so I put this stock, they said just go put it on the dirt. So I put it on the dirt and then, you know, and it shook out a little bit as things messed up. And so it came up with this big leaf. And I tasted it, and it tasted good, and so I was eating it, and then all of a sudden, you know, the next season, all of a sudden I see the chicory flowers on it. So I looked up chicory on Google, and my gosh, it's such a health food. It's such a good thing to eat for so many reasons, and kale will do the same thing. So many things self-seed, the lettuce self-seed. Mm-hmm. Somebody has, that's the
No, Nancy, when we were speaking last night, you were mentioning about this club. Why don't you tell us about that? Because I'm very interested in about how that serves and supports you. This growers club or something?
Well, I don't know how it's by two biology professors here in Virginia, husband and wife. They were interested in learning more about growing food. And so she started this Wild Gardeners. They get together and have potlucks, usually from the food they grow. And they do share seeds. And at the potlucks, they do serve wine. So we bring wine. And we just sit and talk. We don't do any kind of work. We don't grow anything. We just go to every month. We'll either go to one person's garden or sometimes two people's person's garden, and we'll just see what they're doing and look at it, and sit down and talk and have fun. But it's always an education to go look at somebody else's garden and see what they're doing.
Yes.
So, yeah, and we love it. We're really happy group. About 65, 75 of us get together all the time.
Wow, that's really impressive.
There's some good networking.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, Roslynn, Roslynn, I want you to tell us about dandelions.
Dandelions, ooh.
Yeah.
They're dandy.
Yeah.
They're dandy. Well, the seed themselves are very potent with silica, which our body utilizes to make collagen.
Yeah.
And so you can eat the flower, seed puffs that, everyone, curses or maybe, wishes, and they blow, their wishes onto the puff as it, disperses more seed. But the fresh flowers to eat, the greens to eat. The Irish have a little story that they call it dandelion, a piss in a cup. And the long stems represent and do feel like, in my body work, you can feel the urethral tubes from the kidneys to the bladder, and it feels just like a dandelion stem. Men with issues with the urethral tubes as well as the urethra, and a man is longer, it's ideal for them to, maybe snack on a couple dandelion stems to improve their urination.
So you eat the flower, the stem, the leaves, and the roots, if I remember correctly.
Yes, right. It's a very good conditioner for all the urinary tract system, your bladder, excuse me, the kidneys themselves, as well as what piggybacks on the kidneys is the adrenal glands. they benefit from the, I'm just going to call it the enzymes, the raw enzymes that are in that root, that specific plant of the dandelion. Those enzymes interact with our digestive tract, stimulating more production of hormones, also with the pancreas.
Now, how long ago did you realize or discover this knowledge about the dandelions, which are so prolific? Good Lord.
Most of it is, just poking around in some libraries when I was in Ireland and looking at their, there's a, I think I was in Dublin, and small little village in Ireland, where I went to an herb library and, just poked around with what herbs that I was familiar with that grew in my backyard or had access to, and just looked at that library of herbs. And, I'm always looking for old books because there's more literature present of sensitivity, I think, of people's, there's, like in homeopathy, that description that they describe how a herb can affect, be it if you have a sinus infection, another herb is really good for constipation. Oh, was that so accurately defined? And of course, if you look back or you think back, her diet was much different than it is today.
Now, how old do you suppose these books? How old do you suppose these books were that you were discovering this knowledge?
I guess I didn't even look at the age, but they were big and they were old. Probably over 100 years old.
Oh, okay, yeah. Just thought, I wanted to realize how potentially contemporary this knowledge was, or how ancient it might be. Sounds ancient.
But there's a lot of, on the internet, there's lots of information. But the key thing is that there's a particular bacteria that's in the ground. And this bacteria interacts with the enzymes in plants or on the vegetables growing in grounds. And if we're not properly cleaning them, that bacterium, when it gets in our gut, is a positive thing. Because what I've researched and learned is that the bacterium helps our enzymes from the fresh fruits and vegetables produce what we are lacking in our diet, they say today, which is vitamin B12.
Right.
This particular bacterium is also what I have in the greenhouse, but it's in an aquaponics greenhouse. And it's the bacteria in the greenhouse, in this aquaponics system, it's assimilating the ammonia that the fish exchange for the oxygen. So they release ammonia in the water. And they eat, like a little Pac-Man in the water system, the ammonia. And then in return, their waste, they're breaking down the ammonia into a nitrite and nitrate. And those are two beautiful plant fertilizers for the plants that are in the system.
Now, Linda, still with us, darling?
I sure am.
I'm so happy. We haven't heard from you for a while. What's your spin on dandelions? Have you had any experience with any of that? And what do you prefer? Because I know you do herbs and stuff.
Right, yeah. I make a lot of tinctures and herbal teas for my clients. Most of my clients are ailing with, quote, cancer. And so I make a lot of different tinctures, and I use dandelion quite a bit. It's very, very, very healing to the liver also, besides the kidneys. And so it's a really good liver, detoxifier. And the roots are really, really, really more potent. But when you extract them into a tincture base, you would use really high quality alcohol. And I use Everclear, which is 190 proof, because the used vodka is not potent enough to pull the constituents out of the root.
So can you explain that process a bit more? How you go about to achieve a tincture? Because I'm clueless myself, and I'm sure some of the audience might be as well. You use Everclear, so how do you go ahead with that?
Right. So what I do is I have a grinder that is specific for herbs, and I'll grind up the roots and make sure it's really dry. I do leave soil on it when I dig it up. I do leave some soil on it, and but I'll grind it up, and then I put it in a mason jar and cover it with Everclear. And I shake that every day, and I go through 2 full moon cycles. So I try and do it for at least 2 months, 8 weeks, and then I'll strain it off. And of course, all the nutrient value of that root is in the liquid, extracted out of the liquid just from shaking, agitating it, and letting it sit, and the alcohol do its thing as a pulling agent. It pulls all the nutrient value of that root out into the liquid. And so you strain off the root, and the liquid that's left is the tincture. And then you just put a squirt, put a dropper full of that in your tea. Or some people, which I recommend because it is alcohol-based, I recommend taking some boiling water, putting it in no bigger than, a shot glass of boiling water. And what happens is, because the water is so hot, it burns off the alcohol. So, because alcohol is liver toxic. That's why you get drunk. It basically poisons your liver, is what you do when you drink excessively. So that's what I recommend people do, is burn off that alcohol, and then you get just the nutrient value of that herb. That's
fascinating.
That's how you do that.
Yeah, and so when you get an end result, the tincture is, does it have like an oily texture, or is it just a liquid? How does it end in the result product?
Right, it's not an essential oil. It is basically extracted with alcohol, whereas essential oil is extracted with water and steam. And then, so that it's a whole other process, extracting essential oils out of a plant versus a tincture base. So the reason why you go, you do it for a length of time is to make sure that all of the nutrients and constituents in that herb or root are extracted out of that, and you get full potential into that liquid alcohol base.
Well, and you mentioned the full moon cycle, and so we're celebrating full moon today, if I recall correctly, going into Leo. Is that right, Roz?
Yeah, it will be in 30th. Person goes through everyone to hold heart to the Leo who governs the heart.
Yeah, well, it's been very pretty. Last night, we have clear, we've had clear skies here, so the moon was beautiful, and it always appears full prior to its actual fullness.
Yeah, yesterday before I was sun gazing, it was full in the sky, and I was just like, wow, I wonder how many people are noticing this. It was beautiful. This morning it was settling into the east as it was, heading down as the sun was coming up.
Yeah, we had a sunrise this morning, pre seeing the sun at all, but the sky was like a fiery red. I mean, it was really something. I did take a photo of it, but it wasn't what my eye was seeing, at all. It's really quite something. Yeah, so Nancy, do you have any spin on the herbs and the dandelions? Do you have any experience in that department?
Yeah.
Let's hear yours.
Well, first lane is a prolific weed in the garden. It likes rich, well, my soil, my gardening soil are raised beds, and it's all in compost. And so it grows really well there, and it's the highest source of omega-3s. And I can't say I really have a taste for it. I value that. I was kind of thinking with Linda mentioning extracting, because if it's not just perfect, it's not too, it gets fat, it gets like swollen, or if the leaves aren't nice and full, little leaves kind of, but when they're full, then they're good, but if they're flat, they're not. So if I really had a good patch of it going for the grace of God, that maybe it would be good to make an extract of that first lane so that I could be getting that true omega, or anybody else, that true omega-3 value. What do you think, Linda?
Linda, you there?
I am. Yes, I am. I think that's very good idea, because that way you'll get the full potential of those omega-3s.
Oh, good. Yeah, because I tried to dig it out of the garden, and then I put it in, maybe the soil wasn't rich enough. I didn't have enough love when I was moving it, or enough water, and it just like shrinks up and gets flat. So I have that. And then the other thing is the dandelions growing in the garden, the leaves, they're huge.
Oh, yeah, amazingly huge.
Right. 7 inches, 8 inches.
Well, I remember at the symposium that Roslynn was having dandelion for lunch, and I was really quite amazed, actually, how big the root and all that was. I mean, looked like a small carrot almost.
Yeah, that was probably at least like 10, 12-inch root that was below the stem, or the leaves that I was eating also too.
Yeah, no, I was fascinated by that. Sitting by poolside, eating lunch of your tomatoes and dandelions. I was really intrigued.
Oh, that food is delicious. Wonderful.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing how, generous Mother is, when we recognize the indigenous plant life that we have access to, in every region, everywhere you go, there's, access to, really basically free remedy and free food, if you understand how to identify it and, process it or just consume it straight up. Yeah, I posted something yesterday or the day before about the kraton, and they're now trying to put that as a Schedule 1. Now here's another plant that's being put on Schedule 1 as a narcotic. And, it's just crazy. Now, underneath the belly of that beast, you have to understand that the pharmaceutical companies have 5 different products that are using kraton. So, who's in bed with who, you can't just, it'll be illegal to use the actual plant, but it's okay for the pharmaceuticals to sell it to you. It's pretty curious stuff.
What is it, kraton?
Kraton, yeah, Karton. It's an indigenous plant of like Indonesia, Thailand, and areas like that. To the best of my knowledge, I don't know that it grows here. I don't know. I've never even actually heard of it until just So some of my subscribers, friends, and whatnot, they've brought it to my attention. You know, have you ever had kraton? And I hadn't even heard of it. And so I asked Daniel. He goes, "Oh yeah, yeah, it's a plant, and you know, it has medicinal as well as hallucinogenic property to it. But it's not. There's no cases of anybody ever ODing on it." And what they're doing now, this is a part of the research that goes behind this ploy to put it into Schedule 1 is, well, you know, there's 15 reported deaths from overdoses of kraton. Now, this is really misinformation, because of those 15 supposed cases, that spread over from, like, I don't know, 2011 to 2016 or 17. It's a big span of time that they are using these cases. All of them, they were inclusive of other opiates that were found in the system, including alcohol and pharmaceutical drugs. And so you couldn't find a single case that was solidified down to just the kraton, not a one. You know, so, you know, it's kind of like urine, you know, where, you know, people go, "Oh, that's toxic waste." Well, in 5,000 years of recorded history through, you know, the Romans, Egyptians, the Grecians, the Native Americans, the Chinese, the Japanese, the Aztecians, the Mayans, not one recorded case history of anybody dying from drinking their pee. Not one, not one. You know, that's curious, you know. and you know, it's funny because another thing I posted recently was this is a promo from the Porta John company. It comes right from portajohn.com, the biggest Santa can company in the world. And they're proud of this stuff. They post it right in, and they have a partnership, a worldwide, and they make it very clear. It's a worldwide partnership with the pharmaceutical companies. And what they're doing is harvesting the urine out of those porta potties, and they separate them from the urinal that men pee in, and then they keep it in a separate tank. It doesn't go into the feces at all. So they list all the ingredients that they're manufacturing with, everything. And, you know, it's like reading Martha Christie's book or something, you know, or Dave Murphy's. You know, you see all of the power that's in the pea. They list it right there. These are all the ingredients that they're harvesting and creating cosmetics and pharmaceuticals to sell back to us. Now, we're all onto something, and we know it, you know, not just with urine therapy, but with other absolute applications and remedies. They're available. They're out there. You know, some you pay for. You know, pee is free, which is why I prefer it, and it works for me. So I don't do herbs. I don't do vitamins. I don't do supplements. I don't have any opinion about people doing any of that stuff, because I always figured that whatever works for you, you know, if it's working for you, fine. But, you know, if you are taking handfuls of med and bitching about your pain, just shut the fuck up already. You know, don't tell me about it, because obviously you're in denial and you don't really want, you'd rather be the victim and, you know, talk about your problems, you know, and hope that somebody will commiserate, you know. But the truth is that, you know, we have the power, and pee is powerful. It's just powerful. And the more we just do our own homework and research and realize and understand this, you know, we can take care of ourselves. It's really like it's amazing. Wouldn't you agree, ladies?
Yeah,
I 100% agree.
Right. Because a person can grow, they can grow some food on their patio, in container gardening. They put a few plants around their house, such, and where they can get food that isn't doesn't have the genetically modified organisms in it. so they can have pure food right on their windowsill. It takes a little bit of practice to figure it out, but it becomes enjoyable, you know, and fulfilling.
Yes. Yeah. It's not rocket science. I mean, it's certainly luxurious to be able to have raised beds or property and those kind of elements. But you're absolutely correct. You could live in a tiny house and create, you know, plants and herbs and other things that you could utilize. You know, especially herbs. Herbs are pretty easy to grow.
Or even growing vertical.
Growing what?
Growing vertical. You know,
Yeah, vertical. Yeah, exactly.
Pole beans, you know, pole peas. There's a variety of, you know, growth of vegetables. You know, we've called it, you know, they've genetically engineered, you know, bush bean. You know, all beans primarily are a pole bean. So for a true, you know, bean, shoot for your, you know, looking for the pole variety that you will just need to have enough growth height for that vegetable, that vine to grow on. I picked up some peas a while ago, about 10 years ago when I was in England. They're 10 feet vines. You know, they call it champion pea that I picked up in northern England, and it's, you know, prolific.
Now, one thing I've seen in application that was really impressive to me is like growing tomatoes in hanging baskets.
Yeah.
Have you tried any of that, or, you know, any of you?
Personally, no, I haven't.
Okay, somebody.
I grow everything in the ground.
Okay, yeah.
I did too. I did try one of those hanging baskets with the little, you know, like it looked like a strawberry plant. They had little openings, and I found that with the way that the ground is, tomatoes especially, tomatoes like their soil warm. They don't like to be cold. So that's why you never water at night. You know, you always water first thing in the morning, and tomatoes don't like a lot of water, so it's every other day. But I seem to think that my tomatoes always did better when I did them in the ground.
Yeah, that makes sense. The other ones seemed decorative. I just found it curious. You know, when I saw them, I thought, wow, what an interesting idea. Well, especially, again, when we go back to if you're in an apartment or, you know, a city dwelling, that it's an option rather than having pretty flowers. You could actually be growing food, although flowers can be food, as we know.
Well, the flowers are beautiful. I mean, growing onions, the flower of the onion is absolutely gorgeous, and shallots and once you have potatoes, we want to have chives. Beautiful little white flowers. They all bloom. Everything wants to set seed and go again.
Yeah. Yeah. Truly fascinating. Really fascinating.
Right. I have a question for Roz.
Yeah.
With what you shared about your seed storage, how can you store your seeds for so long?
In the greenhouse now I have a pit. So in that pit, I just have a styrofoam box and throw them all in the box. And most often it's just a lot of the seeds through the past. I just, you know, kept in, like the tomato seed, and the tomato seeds do really well in the freezer, but not pepper seeds. I think it's too dry or drying to them. Again, just trial and error. But I find that most everything does well in, you know, a airtight, you know, like a Ziploc bag, if you properly had your seeds dried, and then mark and date your seed, and I just tuck it into the pit where it's, you know, cool and it's dry, and there's not a lot of light because it's covered.
Correct. And now, how deep is your pit that you put your styrofoam cooler?
I think that's 6 foot. So, I mean, it's tall. I mean, when I have to get in it, I have to, throw a 5-gallon bucket into it so I can touch the ground before I, create a step. Because it's quite deep. And that's where in the greenhouse, there's a 500-gallon tank reserve where the 2 pumps are at. That one pump is going to the grow beds, and one pump is going to the fish tanks.
And how big is your greenhouse, Roz? How many square feet?
400 square foot.
Okay, so it's like a 20 by 20 or 10 by what?
It's an odd number. Or maybe it's not an odd number. It's 14 by 28.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's good size.
In depth from the house, and then the home, or it's attached to the house, and the house is 28 foot wide, and then there's a 14-foot ceiling or a window in the front of the greenhouse. That is at an angle of 37-degree angle for the latitude of where the angle of the sun, when it is at its lowest on the horizon, hits the window at 90 degrees. So the barrels in the back on the north side of the greenhouse wall are warmed by the sun's light. Because that's passive solar barrels. There's 55-gallon barrels stacked on that north back wall of the greenhouse.
And did you design all of this?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. And how long ago was that?
About 5 years ago.
Oh, okay. Very cool. Yeah.
So this is our 5th winter.
Now, is it glass panels, or is it plexi, or what kind of panels?
We have a 14-foot panel of bicarbonate. It's a 3-walled layer of, it's not plastic. It's a hard plastic, a bicarbonate plastic. That then there's air pockets, that allow the interior air that's trapped from the greenhouse in there. There's a wall of plastic, then in between the air that's within the pocket from the wall, the 3-layer of pockets are not mixing, but they buffer versus a one piece of plane of glass or one piece of plain plastic. So
these panels are specifically designed for that purpose?
Correct, it is, yes.
Okay. And what do you call them again? How, if people want to buy them or look into those?
We just ordered it from our local hardware store, the bicarbonate panels, and you can order them by specific lengths. If you want a 10-foot, 12-foot, and of course we wanted 14-foot because that's how tall we made the greenhouse.
Right. That's so curious. That's interesting. Yeah. Good stuff. Really good stuff.
So a bigger window allows more light in, so we're not using any artificial lighting like in the greenhouse. It's just what Mother Nature offers if it's not behind some clouds.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. It sounds like a really well thought out design.
Yeah, well, it's a functional greenhouse of a passive solar greenhouse, but we've tucked in an aquaponics system, growing system. So that's just dealing with the action of, we have 2 fish tanks in the greenhouse. Each of them are 300 gallons. We have about, I think, maybe 200 fish. We don't eat them, but they're part of the cycle because they're exchanging or giving the bacterium that's in the system to break down the ammonia.
Right, you were saying that earlier. They kind of consume the ammonia or whatever.
Correct.
Yeah.
The ammonia to a fish is not very healthy, and when we have a healthy production of that bacteria throughout the grow beds, as well as in a specific filter where they breed, I would say, as part of our filtering system, and that then goes and dumps into the main tank, and then there's a pump in that main reservoir tank that pumps that water then directly into the grow beds.
Now, do you, what is there a constant temperature? I mean, you got fish in there, so is there some way that you moderate a consistent temperature for the seasons?
Well, we chose a native fish, but we have in the greenhouse, we chose not to have like tilapia. You know, that was a thought, but tilapia are tropical, and I'm not in the tropic.
Right.
And heat water is more expensive than to heat air.
Right.
So, you know, just to make it as more sustainable, yes, we need electricity to use to operate the 3 pumps. 2 of them are water pumps, and then we have a 3rd pump that's an air pump to supplement more air where the fish are at.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Now, do you do winter growing? Is there roots or things that you grow year-round?
Well, everything grows year-round in the greenhouse.
Yeah.
Primarily, it's right now I have herbs in there because I can harvest the herbs without disrupting the roots. Because the roots are needed to help keeping the pH of the whole system in sync. If I'm constantly pulling out a vegetable, you know, like a carrot or a radish or a lettuce, those roots, then it takes, you know, I need to put an established plant with roots to make sure that we make up for what I take out. So it's been a learning curve. So primarily I'm putting herbs in there. I had a kind of a bad winter this winter, but I think it was also shot to the new transplants of aloe vera that I planted in, that I have from New Mexico. We'll see how they recover. It's a trial and error, but there's a Chinese herb that I grow. It's called gynostemia, or jilonga. Its proper pronunciation. And that is a very similar in nature to ginseng, which is known for its adaptogens. So this gynostemia is an adaptogen. It's an adaptogen family. And primarily it's used in China as just tea.
So it is a root. That's what you're growing as a root?
Well, the roots are established, and I just give it a haircut, you know.
I see. So you're using the flowering aspect of it. Because you said it's like ginseng. And I always think of that more like as a root than the flower, but that's just my limited knowledge.
A ginseng is a root that they harvest to collect the adaptogens, but here with the gynostemia, it's a vine. It's very similar looking. They call it part of the squash family, but it doesn't produce any, you know, fruit like a squash. It produces a very small berry, which doesn't have much literature on. But this year I got lots of berries. So I'll be picking berries before I, you know, give it a big haircut and dry out the leaves, because that's what's prized for making tea.
Wow, that's so interesting.
And then there's, you know, the standard, there's onions I have in there, and they just grow year round. Same with the onion chives. It's called, I call it shashka. It's a Hungarian vegetable. It's a root vegetable, very similar to rhubarb. It has green leaves. I keep saying shashka, but there's an American name, but English, and I can't think of it. It keeps saying Hungarian. And then there's a few fruit trees. We have some citrus, lime, and lemon trees in there, but they're about 3 years old, and they're about 4 foot tall, but it hasn't produced any fruit yet.
Right. It takes several years for most fruit trees to mature, to my understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, when you say it's like rhubarb, does it grow in a stalk like a rhubarb does?
Well, it has very narrow leaves or stems, and then it just produces a leaf, and, you know, my boys eat it like, you know, spinach.
Oh, I see.
They eat it fresh. In Hungary, they will, in the springtime when it comes up, but it grows year round in the greenhouse, in the springtime, one would, you know, give it a haircut and make a cold soup with it, with cucumber.
Wow. Sounds delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that soup.
You don't like it.
That soup that you made and brought when we made that excursion to
down to Iowa.
Yeah, Des Moines, wasn't it? And that was tasty soup, and that had like cabbage, I think, and onion, and what else was in there? Beets.
Yeah, I grated the beets, carrots, some cabbage, onion. This is kind of your root base, soup, with a few leaves, I guess. That was it.
Yeah, no, that was a perfect,
I used, what did I call it? No. I was trying to think. I used caraway in that recipe that time.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Well, it was so perfect for that. It was such a cold day,
Mm-hmm. Well, the bright red color from the beet was beautiful. Maybe
Yeah.
just made it out of the...
Yeah, it was perfect. Yeah. So, Nancy, you have anything you'd like to add in at this point? Any thoughts or questions or, more information for us?
I so much enjoy listening to the program and being a part of it. I just thank you for inviting me to this opportunity. Thank you.
I'm honored to have all three of you. You're just so you're all so beautiful and smart, and you just have such great hearts and such valuable information. I'm confident that our listening audience, whether they're live or not, I mean, once this thing goes out, people are going to pick up on it. I know it. Doing this show at noon, I tell people it doesn't matter what time I do the show. This is what works for me, because I do have I know I have a world audience, and, it could be, 2 in the morning, and, people are, if they're up, they could be watching in India. I never know, so I never worry about it,
Well, it's convenient for them.
Yeah, and so, a lot of people don't view the things until after it's posted up and whatnot. So I never worry about I never worry about anything, to be honest.
I think the important thing is for people to understand that urine is its own element, and the fact that it's sterile, and it isn't going to, the pathogens are in the feces. And so just staying with the urine and whether they're consuming it or just saving it for their plants, it's wonderful.
Yes.
It is.
And is there anything you'd like to add, Linda?
Just that I really enjoyed listening to everyone's comments, and they're sharing their stories. Roslynn and Nancy, thank you so much, and thank you again, Casey, for inviting me.
Oh, it's such a privilege to have you. It is. I was looking forward to this for quite some time. I mean, when the idea came up and I had reached out to all of you, and you were all so willing, I was so grateful, because I just thought it'd be a fascinating show. And so much to learn for people, and it's coming up on spring in its own way. We're going into February now, and this is the time to plant trees soon, and different things. So people will have planting on their mind, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So is there, if anybody has any questions out there? I haven't seen any questions appear. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. And again, I thank our guests, Roslynn Hansen, Nancy Fox, and Linda Maris, for joining in this illuminating conversation about organic farming and gardening with urine. And next week's show, I want to remind everybody, next week's show is going to be featuring Stephen Williams, the producer and director of the fascinating documentary film Urine Aid, which has just won another award. He's on a roll. Yeah, this thing is picking up steam. It's happening, and I'm so excited for him. And I'm really excited for.
I'm so excited.
Yeah. Oh, it's
I'm
just.
so excited to hear it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so awesome that I mean, he just won in Calcutta. you know, he's a finalist in Calcutta. He won a Golden Award. I mean, he's picking up steam. It's happening. You know, his efforts are paying off. And this has been a long, long road. I mean, you know, making a documentary film, it took him years to make it. And it's taken, you know, a lot of time to get it distributed out to film festivals. And just because you solicit and enter doesn't mean it's accepted. So, you know, I'm really excited to talk to Stephen. We've had a couple of conversations. He's a fascinating man. So that's next Tuesday's show on the ORIN Oracles Live. Again, I remind you, Saturday, I do a Casey Caban Q&A. It's kind of a Saturday morning cartoon show featuring, you know, my stunt double, Casey Caban. And that's at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. And I want to remind people that, boom, don't forget about the Water Life Symposium. It's in September 21st, 2nd, and 3rd. That's at the Westgate. You can go to waterlifesymposium.com, register. It's only $35, which is nothing. And a lot of people are planning on different things. We're looking at caravanning with a lot of people. People are looking at ordering up. There's already a process going on, getting large houses, B&Bs, and, you know, having, you know, kind of slumber parties. And so that's way cool. And, yeah, so everything's rolling. We've got some really great shows coming up in the future. I got Leah Sampson coming up the week after that, you know, the white-capped buffalo woman. And she's got just a tremendous testimonial story. And Jordan Blakey, who runs Urine Magic, he's the one behind one of the sites. He's coming up in a couple of weeks. And other than that, let me think. Yeah, if you want to donate towards the ORIN Oracles book, I welcome you to do so. It's $25 donation, gets you a secured copy, signed and numbered, and you'll be in the acknowledgments. That's at paypal.me/Weedu. And other than that, let me think. Have a beautiful, wonderful, marvelous day. And boom! Ha!
Thank you.
Yeah, just been loved. Bye, ladies. Thanks again.
Bye.
See y'all, folks. Thanks for joining us. It's really been a treat today. We'll look forward to you soon. You'll find this posted up online soon. So, okay, have a great day. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.